Welcome back everyone, and thank you for tuning into the channel where hidden history, unbelievable value, and the quiet power of small objects collide, because today we are diving deep into a story that sounds impossible at first hearing yet continues to electrify collectors, historians, and everyday people alike, the story of a humble 1975 1-cent coin that, because of a rare convergence of errors, mistakes, anomalies, and circumstances, has been whispered about in elite numismatic circles as being worth as much as $16 million, a value so extreme that it forces us to rethink what we believe about money, manufacturing, and the thin line between ordinary and extraordinary. And as you listen, imagine the journey of this tiny copper coin, born in a Denver mint facility during a turbulent decade, slipping unnoticed into circulation, only to later become one of the most talked about error pennies ever conceived, not because of gold content or ancient origin, but because of human imperfection, mechanical failure, and the almost mythic rarity that emerges when multiple unlikely factors collide at precisely the wrong or perhaps right moment. The 1975 1-cent begins its life like millions of others, struck during a time when the United States Mint was under immense pressure to produce vast quantities of coinage to meet demand, dealing with aging equipment, rapid production schedules, and a workforce operating in a pre-digital era where quality control relied heavily on human inspection rather than automated precision systems. And within this environment, mistakes were inevitable, but what makes this particular coin legendary is not a single error, but the stacking of several anomalies that together create a perfect storm of numismatic value, beginning with the composition itself, as 1975 cents were officially meant to be struck on copper-plated zinc planchets introduced later in the decade, yet rumors persist of transitional blanks, experimental alloys, and leftover bronze planchets from earlier years making their way into presses. And if a 1975 cent were struck on an unauthorized bronze or off-metal planchet, especially one with an incorrect weight and metallurgical signature matching earlier compositions, that alone would place it among the rarest modern cents known. But the story does not stop there, because the alleged $16 million specimen is said to also exhibit a dramatic double die obverse, not the subtle doubling seen on many minor varieties, but a bold, unmistakable separation visible to the naked eye on Lincoln's profile, the date, and the lettering of "In God We Trust," suggesting a misaligned hubbing process where the die received multiple impressions at incorrect angles, a process that should have been caught but may have slipped through due to rushed production. And this doubling, combined with the wrong planchet, exponentially increases desirability because it represents two independent errors occurring simultaneously, a statistical near-impossibility in mass production. Adding another layer of intrigue is the reported mint mark anomaly, as the D mint mark on this coin is said to be either repunched, misplaced, or oddly shaped, potentially indicating a hand-punched mint mark applied inconsistently or struck through debris, which was still possible in the mid-1970s when mint marks were not yet part of the master hub, and a repunched or malformed D on a 1975 cent is already scarce, but when paired with the other errors, it becomes part of a constellation of defects that collectors dream about but rarely ever see materialize in a single specimen. Beyond these visible features, microscopic analysis is rumored to reveal die cracks, die chips, and possibly even a retained cud near the rim, evidence of a die that was pushed far beyond its intended lifespan, producing coins with metal flow distortions, rim irregularities, and textural anomalies that tell the story of mechanical stress and neglect. And while such flaws often reduce the appeal of coins, in the world of error collecting, they can dramatically increase value when they are unusual, well-defined, and historically contextualized. The legend of the $16 million valuation also hinges on provenance and certification, because a coin is only as valuable as its documentation allows, and the hypothetical 1975 cent in question is said to have been discovered by a private individual who initially mistook it for pocket change, later noticing its odd weight, sound, and appearance, and after years of skepticism, had it examined by multiple independent experts, metallurgists, and grading authorities, each confirming aspects of its uniqueness, though perhaps not all agreeing on its exact origin, which paradoxically adds to its mystique, because unresolved questions fuel debate, and debate fuels value in high-end collecting circles where the story behind the object is as important as the object itself. Another factor driving the astronomical valuation is the complete absence of comparable examples, because while other rare pennies like the 1943 bronze cent or the 1955 double die are well documented with known populations, the 1975 D cent described here exists, according to lore, as a one-of-one anomaly, meaning there is no market precedent, no auction history to anchor its price, allowing speculative valuation to soar into the millions as collectors imagine what they would pay to own something literally no one else can have, and in markets driven by scarcity and prestige, such imagination can translate into real money. The timing of its creation also matters, because the mid-1970s were a period of transition, experimentation, and economic uncertainty for the United States, with rising metal prices, changes in coin composition, and internal debates within the mint about cost-cutting and efficiency, all of which increased the likelihood of experimental planchets, test runs, and undocumented deviations entering circulation, and a coin that embodies that chaotic moment becomes a tangible artifact of history, a frozen accident that reflects broader systemic shifts rather than an isolated mistake. Some theories even suggest that the coin may have been struck using a proof die intended for special sets, explaining unusually sharp details and mirrored fields inconsistent with regular circulation strikes, and if true, that would introduce yet another layer of rarity, as proof dies were never meant to be used in Denver for circulation cents, raising questions about internal handling errors or unauthorized use. And while such claims are controversial, controversy itself can enhance value by keeping the coin in constant discussion. The psychological element cannot be ignored either, because high-value collectibles operate in a realm where perception, belief, and narrative shape reality, and a coin that captures public imagination as the most valuable penny in existence becomes a symbol, not just of rarity, but of possibility, the idea that life-changing wealth could be hiding in plain sight, in a jar, a drawer, or a handful of change, and this emotional resonance amplifies demand far beyond what metal or error count alone would justify. The $16 million figure, while staggering, is often justified by comparing the coin to fine art, where uniqueness, story, and cultural impact outweigh material considerations, and in that context, a one-of-a-kind modern-era coin that challenges everything we think we know about minting precision can be seen as a masterpiece of accidental art, created not by intention but by the convergence of human error and mechanical limitation. Skeptics rightly point out that such valuations are speculative, dependent on finding a buyer willing to pay that price, but history shows that when ultra-wealthy collectors decide they want something badly enough, traditional price logic dissolves, and the absence of alternatives means the seller sets the terms, especially if the coin is locked away, off the market, fueling rumors and desire. The coin's condition is also critical, as it is said to have survived decades with minimal wear, perhaps pulled from circulation early due to its odd appearance, preserving sharp details that would otherwise have been lost, and high grade combined with extreme rarity is the holy grail of numismatics, pushing prices into realms that seem absurd until they are realized. There is also the allure of institutional interest, because museums, private foundations, and even mints themselves may covet such an anomaly as a teaching tool or exhibit centerpiece, and institutional budgets operate on different scales than private collectors, making multi-million-dollar acquisitions feasible if the object aligns with their mission and prestige goals. The possibility that additional documentation could surface, such as internal mint memos, production logs, or whistleblower accounts confirming experimental strikes or known errors from that period, further adds speculative upside, because official acknowledgement would legitimize the coin story and silence many critics, potentially triggering a bidding war unlike anything seen for a modern cent. Even the debate over whether the coin truly exists in the described form plays into its value narrative, because mystery sustains attention, and attention sustains perceived worth, turning the 1975 D1 cent into a kind of numismatic legend, half-documented object, half-modern myth, discussed in hushed tones at conventions and online forums, with each retelling adding layers of detail and intrigue. Next, 2014 1-cent coin, today, where we uncover fascinating stories behind seemingly ordinary objects, and in this episode, we are going to dive into one of the most mind-blowing and talked-about mysteries in modern coin collecting, the legendary 2014 1-cent coin that is rumored to be worth as much as $13 million due to a rare combination of errors, mistakes, historical anomalies, and collector fascination, and whether you are an experienced numismatist or someone who simply enjoys examining the coins that jingle in your pocket, this story is going to completely transform the way you perceive a simple penny because, at first glance, the 2014 1-cent coin looks entirely ordinary, made from copper-plated zinc, bearing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, struck in massive quantities at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Yet hidden within the billions of coins produced that year are extremely rare anomalies which, when combined into a single specimen, can elevate the coin from everyday currency to a potential multi-million-dollar treasure. And to understand why such a coin could ever achieve a $13 million valuation, we need to delve deeply into the full spectrum of errors and mistakes that can occur during the minting process, especially during the 2010s when the U.S. Mint was continuing to implement modern machinery, automated die production, and precise quality control protocols, because even with state-of-the-art technology, human oversight, mechanical wear, and material inconsistencies can lead to coins that are essentially one-of-a-kind, and when a 2014 penny exhibits multiple high-profile errors simultaneously, its value does not increase linearly but exponentially, since collectors place enormous importance on rarity, uniqueness, and documented impossibility. And one of the most famous and compelling potential errors associated with the 2014 1-cent coin is a strong double die obverse, where doubling is clearly visible on key elements of Lincoln's portrait, such as the jawline, the lettering, or even the date, and while many double die coins exist from various years, the intensity, clarity, and position of the doubling on this coin make it one of the most visually striking double dies in recent U.S. coinage, yet a double die alone, while significant, would not justify a $13 million price tag, because high-grade examples of double die cents typically command thousands or tens of thousands depending on condition, so for a coin to reach multi-million-dollar status, additional extraordinary factors must be present, such as being struck on an incorrect planchet, for example a solid copper planchet leftover from earlier years, a foreign planchet, or even a planchet of incorrect thickness or composition. And such planchet errors are exceedingly rare given the precision of modern minting procedures, but they do occur, and when a 2014 penny is struck on a wrong planchet that is visually indistinguishable from the standard coin at first glance, the shock factor and the rarity elevate its desirability, and if metallurgical analysis confirms an unusual alloy composition, weight discrepancy, or improper bonding of the copper plating, the coin instantly becomes an anomaly of extreme significance. Yet even that is just the beginning because strike quality and alignment errors can further enhance value, including off-center strikes, broad strikes where the retaining collar fails to properly contain the metal, or partial collar errors that allow the metal to flow in irregular ways, and while individually these errors can be collected, the presence of such anomalies on a coin already exhibiting a double die and a rare planchet multiplies its uniqueness and desirability. And uniqueness is the key driver of astronomical valuations in the world of numismatics, especially when combined with other factors like dramatic die rotations, which occur when the obverse and reverse dies are misaligned by a significant degree, and collectors often prize rotations exceeding 45 degrees, with 90 or 180-degree rotations considered exceptionally valuable, and imagining a 2014 penny that has a strong double die, is struck on a rare or incorrect planchet, and also exhibits a 90-degree die rotation takes the coin from being a notable error to a singular marvel, essentially a catalogue of minting mistakes preserved in copper-plated zinc. And then there is the consideration of condition, which is absolutely crucial when discussing coins of such potential value, because high-grade preservation can be a rarity for coins with major errors, and a specimen graded at MS68 or MS69 by a reputable third-party grading service such as PCGS or NGC would be almost unheard of, given that coins with significant errors often display weak strikes, die clashes, or handling damage, so a pristine example would be a statistical miracle, and condition rarity, combined with error rarity, does not merely add value, it multiplies it exponentially, and provenance also plays a pivotal role, as coins with verifiable history, such as direct acquisition from mint bags, estate collections, or documentation tracing ownership to credible sources, gain enormous trust from collectors, which is essential when dealing with valuations in the millions. And auction history and media coverage amplify this effect, because a coin that is featured in prestigious auctions or covered by mainstream and numismatic media instantly gains legitimacy, desirability, and market attention. And another extraordinary possibility that could exist for the 2014 penny includes dramatic die cracks, cuds, or retained cuds, which occur when parts of the die break away, leaving raised blobs or distortions on the coin's surface. And while minor die cracks are relatively common, large cuds that significantly alter Lincoln's portrait or the lettering are rare and incredibly collectible. And when such an error is combined with a double die and unusual planchet composition, the coin essentially becomes an anomaly that challenges the norms of modern minting and the expectations of collectors. And we can also theorize about mule errors, which occur when mismatched dies are paired together, such as an obverse die from one year with a reverse die from another year, or even dies intended for a different denomination. And while no confirmed 2014 penny mule has been publicly documented, the potential existence of such a coin would instantly create an item of legendary status, because mules are some of the most sought-after types of modern coin errors due to their extreme rarity and the dramatic story they tell about the minting process. And in addition, missing elements or filled details, such as a partially missing mint mark, weakly struck date, or absent design elements due to hubbing issues, can add yet another dimension to the coin's uniqueness. And classification of such anomalies is essential because officially recognized varieties are easier to market, insure, and verify, which contributes to investor confidence. And the combination of all these errors, a strong double die, rare planchet composition, dramatic die rotation, die cracks or cuds, potential mule characteristics, filled or missing elements, and high-grade preservation, creates a coin that is effectively one of a kind in the modern numismatic world. And the statistical probability of all these anomalies converging on a single 2014 penny is astronomically low, which is precisely why its theoretical value could reach $13 million. And this valuation is not simply a reflection of current market interest, but also of potential future demand, because as collectors become more aware of rare modern errors through social media, YouTube channels like this one, numismatic forums, and online marketplaces, demand for extraordinary coins increases. And younger collectors, who may feel a personal connection to coins minted during their own lifetimes, are particularly drawn to modern rarities. And as these collectors enter the market with high disposable income and an interest in long-term investment, they drive up prices beyond conventional expectations. And we also need to consider that rare coins are increasingly viewed as alternative investments, similar to art, rare watches, or historical artifacts, because they are tangible, finite in number, and resistant to certain economic fluctuations. And a 2014 penny that embodies multiple minting anomalies fits this profile perfectly, especially if it is the only known example. And third-party certification is essential here, because without authentication, even the most spectacular coin could be dismissed as a hoax or misidentified. But once a coin is certified and published in population reports as the sole example of its kind, it becomes a benchmark piece, defining the market and setting records that future coins will be measured against. And the narrative surrounding the coin adds immense value, because humans are storytellers, and a penny that defies expectations, appearing ordinary in one moment and priceless in the next, captures the imagination of collectors and the general public alike. And when all of these factors, errors, mistakes, unusual planchets, die rotations, die cracks, potential mule characteristics, missing elements, high-grade preservation, provenance, certification, competition among collectors, media coverage, and the emotional allure of holding something unique, converge in a single 2014 1-cent coin, the theoretical valuation of $13 million becomes not only plausible but also highly compelling. And even the mere rumor or speculation about such a coin can drive interest. Next, 1984 D 1 cent, today where curiosity meets history and everyday objects turn into unbelievable stories. And in this episode we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and talked about mysteries in modern coin collecting, the legendary 1984 D 1 cent coin that has been rumored, debated, analyzed, and dreamed about as being worth as much as $15 million due to a perfect storm of rare errors, production mistakes, historical context, and collector psychology, and weather. You're a seasoned numismatist or someone who just enjoys checking pocket change, this story is going to completely change the way you look at a simple penny, because on the surface the 1984 D1 cent looks ordinary, copper-colored, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, struck at the Denver Mint during a year when billions of cents were produced. Yet buried within this massive production run are extremely rare anomalies that, when combined in a single specimen, elevate the coin from everyday change to a potential multi-million-dollar treasure. And to understand why such a coin could ever be valued at $15 million, we need to explore the full landscape of errors and mistakes that can occur during the minting process, especially during the early 1980s when the United States Mint was undergoing significant transitions in metal composition, machinery calibration, and quality control procedures, because 1984 falls into a critical era. Following the 1982 change from predominantly copper cents to copper-plated zinc cents, a shift that introduced numerous opportunities for planchet errors, wrong metal strikes, bonding failures, and transitional anomalies, and when a coin from 1984D exhibits multiple high-profile errors simultaneously, its value increases exponentially rather than incrementally. Since collectors prize uniqueness and documented impossibility above all else, and one of the most famous and central errors associated with the 1984D cent is the double die obverse, particularly the dramatic doubling visible on Lincoln's ear, which has earned the nickname the double ear variety, and while many double die coins exist, the strength, clarity, and location of the doubling on this issue make it one of the most visually striking and desirable double dies in modern U.S. coinage. Yet even that alone would not justify a $15 million valuation, because high-grade examples of the 1984D doubled ear cent typically sell for thousands or tens of thousands depending on condition, so the true leap into seven-figure territory requires layering this error with other extraordinary factors, such as being struck on the wrong planchet, for instance a bronze planchet intended for earlier years or even a foreign planchet, which would already be an astonishing discovery given the strict inventory controls at the mint. But mistakes do happen, especially during periods of transition, and if a 1984D cent were struck on a leftover solid copper planchet weighing approximately 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 gram copper-plated zinc planchet, that alone would make it a transitional error of extreme rarity, and if metallurgical testing confirmed that the coin was indeed composed of the wrong alloy while also displaying the double die obverse, the value would surge dramatically. Yet the story doesn't stop there, because another layer of value comes from strike quality and alignment. Errors, such as off-center strikes, broad strikes without collars, or partial collar errors, which occur when the retaining collar fails to engage properly during striking, allowing the metal to spread outward and distort the design, and while these errors are not uncommon individually, their presence on an already rare double-die transitional planchet coin would make the specimen effectively unique. And uniqueness is the holy grail of high-end numismatics, especially when the coin also exhibits a mint error like a rotated die, where the obverse and reverse are misaligned by a significant degree, adding yet another dimension of rarity, and collectors often pay premiums for coins with rotations exceeding 45 degrees, but rotations of 90 or 180 degrees are particularly coveted. And now imagine a 1984D cent that not only has the doubled ear, is struck on a solid copper planchet, but also shows a dramatic die rotation, and at this point the coin is no longer just an error, it's a catalog of minting mishaps frozen into a single object. And yet another factor that could drive the value toward $15 million is condition, because high-grade preservation is essential for top-tier valuation, and a coin graded at MS68 or MS69 by a major third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC would be virtually unheard of for a heavily errored cent. Since error coins often suffer from weak strikes or handling damage, so a pristine example with full luster, sharp details, and minimal marks would be a statistical miracle, and condition rarity amplifies error rarity, creating a multiplier effect on value rather than a simple addition. And provenance also plays a critical role, because if the coin can be traced back to an original mint employee collection, a sealed government bag, or a well-documented estate with verifiable history, collectors gain confidence in its authenticity. which is essential when values climb into the millions, and auction houses thrive on stories as much as objects, so a compelling narrative surrounding the discovery of the coin, such as being found in a roll from a small-town bank or discovered by a collector who initially dismissed it as ordinary, adds emotional weight and market appeal. And then there is the psychology of competition, because when multiple billionaire collectors want the same coin and only one exists, bidding wars can escalate beyond rational valuation models, especially when the coin represents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own something that may never appear on the market again, and this competitive dynamic has driven prices of rare coins to astonishing heights in the past, such as the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair dollar. And while a penny might seem humble by comparison, its accessibility and relatability make its rarity even more compelling, because the idea that a coin once worth 1 cent could now be worth $15 million captures the imagination of the public and draws attention far beyond the numismatic community, and media coverage alone can inflate demand and perceived value, especially if the coin becomes known as the most valuable penny in existence. And another layer of intrigue comes from potential mint errors like die cracks, cuds, or retained cuds, which occur when a portion of the die breaks away, leaving raised blobs of metal on the coin's surface. And while minor die cracks are common, large dramatic cuds that distort key design elements are rare and visually striking, and again, when combined with other major errors, they contribute to the coin's uniqueness. And we also must consider the possibility of a mule error, where mismatched dies are used, such as pairing an obverse from one year with a reverse from another, or even from a different denomination. And while no confirmed 1984 cent mule has been documented publicly, the theoretical existence of such a coin would instantly place it among the most valuable modern U.S. coins ever discovered, especially if the reverse showed a design not intended for cents at all. And then there's the realm of missing elements, such as missing mint marks, weak strikes, or improperly hubbed dies, which can cause portions of the design to appear faint or absent. And while missing mint marks on 1984 cents are not errors because the mint mark was punched into the die at the Denver Mint, a filled or partially filled mint mark could add yet another variety classification. And classification itself is important because recognized varieties are easier to market and insure, and when a coin receives multiple attributions from grading services, its legitimacy and desirability increase, and the sheer number of things that would have to go wrong for a single 1984 cent to embody all these traits is staggering, which is exactly why such a coin would be priceless to collectors. And yet the estimated $15 million value also reflects future potential rather than just current demand, because as more collectors enter the hobby and as information spreads through social media, YouTube channels like this one, and online marketplaces, awareness of rare errors increases, driving up prices over time, and younger collectors often gravitate toward modern coins because they feel a personal connection to them, having seen similar coins in circulation during their lifetimes. And this generational shift in interest supports higher valuations for modern rarities. And we also need to consider inflation and the investment mindset, because rare coins are increasingly viewed as alternative assets, similar to art or rare watches, and high-net-worth individuals diversify portfolios with tangible assets that have historical significance and limited supply, and a one-of-a-kind rare penny fits that profile perfectly, especially when it carries a dramatic story and public recognition. And certification plays a vital role here, because without authentication, even the most spectacular error would be met with skepticism. But once certified, encapsulated, and published in population reports as the sole example of its kind, the coin becomes a benchmark piece, and benchmark pieces define markets, setting records that future coins are measured against. Last 2016 1 cent, today, where we explore the most fascinating, surprising, and sometimes unbelievable stories behind ordinary objects, and in this episode we are going to delve into one of the most talked about mysteries in modern coin collecting, the legendary 2016 1 cent coin that is rumored to be worth as much as $14 million due to an extraordinary combination of errors, mistakes, anomalies, and possibilities. And whether you are a seasoned coin collector, an investor looking at alternative tangible assets, or simply someone who enjoys discovering the hidden stories behind everyday change, this story is going to completely transform the way you perceive a simple penny, because at first glance, the 2016 1 cent appears entirely ordinary, made from copper-plated zinc, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Struck in massive quantities at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints during a seemingly routine year of production, yet buried within the billions of coins minted in 2016 are extremely rare anomalies which, when combined in a single specimen, can elevate the coin from mundane currency to an object of immense monetary and historical value. And to understand why such a coin could ever be valued at $14 million, we need to explore the full range of possible minting errors and mistakes that could occur during the production process, especially during the 2010s when the United States Mint was employing state-of-the-art machinery, high-speed presses, automated die creation, and rigorous quality control measures, because even with these modern techniques, human oversight, mechanical wear, material inconsistencies, and transitional processes can lead to coins that are effectively one of a kind. And when a 2016 penny exhibits multiple high-profile errors at once, its value does not increase incrementally but exponentially, as collectors prize rarity, uniqueness, and documented impossibility above all else. And one of the most compelling potential errors for the 2016 penny is a dramatic double die obverse, particularly doubling visible on Lincoln's jawline, the date, and the lettering of inscriptions. And while double die coins exist across various years, the strength, clarity, and positioning of doubling on a 2016 penny would make it an extraordinarily rare example of modern coinage. Yet a double die alone would not justify a $14 million valuation, because high-grade examples of double die cents typically sell for thousands or tens of thousands of dollars depending on condition, so achieving a multi-million-dollar status requires additional extraordinary factors, such as being struck on an incorrect or unusual planchet, for example a solid copper planchet leftover from earlier production, a foreign planchet with slightly different alloy composition, or a planchet that deviates in thickness, diameter, or weight from the standard 2.5-gram copper-plated zinc planchet. And while modern minting procedures are highly precise, such mistakes do occur, and a 2016 penny struck on an anomalous planchet instantly becomes a subject of intense interest for collectors. And if metallurgical testing confirms unusual alloy composition, weight discrepancy, or improper copper plating, the coin becomes a unique artifact that documents both human error and technological imperfection in modern minting. Yet even this is just one layer of value, because strike quality and alignment errors can further enhance a coin's desirability, including off-center strikes that shift the design partially off the planchet, broad strikes where the retaining collar fails to properly contain the metal allowing it to spread irregularly, and partial collar errors that distort the coin's edges and overall shape. And while these strike anomalies are collectible individually, their presence on a coin that also exhibits a double die and a rare planchet elevates its uniqueness to near impossible status. And uniqueness is the most important factor in determining high valuation, particularly when additional anomalies such as die rotation are present, because when the obverse and reverse dies are misaligned, whether by 45, 90, or even 180 degrees, collectors prize the coin for both visual impact and rarity. And imagining a 2016 penny with a strong double die, struck on a rare planchet, and showing a significant die rotation transforms the coin from a noteworthy error into a singular numismatic marvel, effectively cataloging a series of minting anomalies frozen in copper-plated zinc, and condition further magnifies the coin's value, because pristine preservation is exceptionally rare for coins with multiple errors, and a specimen graded MS-68 or MS-69 by reputable third-party grading services like PCGS or NGC would be almost unheard of, given that coins with major errors typically suffer from weak strikes, die cracks, or handling damage, and the combination of high-grade preservation with error rarity does not merely add value, it multiplies it exponentially. And provenance also plays a crucial role, because coins with verifiable histories, whether acquired directly from mint bags, documented in estate collections, or otherwise recorded, gain credibility that is essential when valuations approach double-digit millions. And auction houses and media attention further amplify this effect, as coins featured in prestigious auctions or covered by mainstream and numismatic outlets gain recognition, legitimacy, and heightened demand. And beyond double dies, planchet errors, and die rotations, Additional possibilities for the 2016 penny include die cracks, cuds, retained cuds, and other die break phenomena, which occur when portions of the die fracture and leave raised metal or distortions on the coin's surface, and while minor die cracks are relatively common, large, dramatic cuds that disrupt Lincoln's portrait, the date, or key inscriptions are extremely rare and highly prized, and when such features exist alongside other major errors, the coin becomes unprecedented in modern U.S. coinage, representing both a physical and historical rarity, and one can also consider the potential for mule errors, which occur when obverse and reverse dies from different years or denominations are paired together. And while no confirmed 2016 penny mule has been publicly documented, the potential existence of such a coin would instantly elevate its status to legendary, because mules are among the most sought-after modern coin errors due to their extreme rarity, complexity, and insight into minting practices, and missing elements or filled details, such as partially missing mint marks, weakly struck dates, or absent design features due to hubbing issues, can further enhance uniqueness, and official classification of these anomalies is critical, because coins recognized as varieties or official errors are easier to market, insure, and verify, and when all these features, dramatic double die, rare or incorrect planchet, die rotation, die cracks or cuds, potential mule characteristics, filled or missing elements, and pristine preservation, converge in a single 2016 penny, the coin effectively becomes a one-of-a-kind masterpiece of minting irregularities. And the statistical probability of all these anomalies occurring together is astronomically low, which is precisely why its theoretical value could reach $14 million. And this valuation reflects not only current collector interest but also future potential, as awareness spreads through social media, YouTube channels like this one, numismatic forums, and online marketplaces, increasing demand for extraordinary coins, and younger collectors who have a personal connection to modern coins are particularly drawn to rare anomalies from the past decade. And as these collectors enter the market with interest and financial means, the price for such a coin can escalate dramatically, further fueled by the perception of coins as alternative investments akin to fine art, rare watches, or historical artifacts, because rare coins are tangible, finite in number, and historically significant, and a 2016 penny embodying multiple errors fits this profile perfectly, especially if it is the only known specimen. And third-party authentication is absolutely essential, because even the most remarkable coin can be dismissed without proper certification, but once graded and population verified as unique, it becomes a benchmark piece, defining the market and establishing a reference point for future discoveries, and the story surrounding the coin adds immense value because humans are inherently drawn to narratives, and a penny that appears ordinary in one moment and potentially worth millions in the next captures imagination and excitement in ways that transcend the object itself. And when all the factors, dramatic double dies, rare planchet, die rotation, die cracks or cuds, potential mule characteristics, missing elements, high-grade preservation, provenance, certification, collector competition, media coverage, and the emotional appeal of rarity, combine, the theoretical $14 million valuation becomes not only conceivable but also compelling. And even the rumor or speculation of such a coin influences the market as collectors scour rolls, jars, and old collections hoping to find the next legendary specimen, keeping the legend alive and maintaining high demand. And the story of this 2016 penny illustrates that extraordinary value can exist in the most mundane objects, that history continues to be written in everyday items, sometimes 1 cent at a time.